Hello, Miss Oleksandr. Oh, hello. One question?
One question?
Just
One question.
Come on.
Oleksandr, what did you make of Moses' win on the weekend? What did you think?
The great man, the great fight. I think Itauma, it's future for boxing. I like this guy.
He says he's ready for you now at 20 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
His Excellency, even though he's only 20, he wants that fight now with Usyk and Itauma.
I don't know. This is not good for Itauma.
My name is Guy Itauma. Moses Itauma. I think he's a great fighter. The young, 20 years, yeah?
20.
Yeah, 20 years. I think Itauma have big future.
Why would Usyk take that fight? That's obviously my first thought. But, I mean, if the fight was to present itself and they was like, right, you're fighting Usyk in May, I'm like, yeah, I'm taking it 100%. There's no loss in that. Do you get what I mean?
Moses Itauma has never been shy about his ambitions, and now he's taken things to another level by calling out none other than Oleksandr Usyk. The young heavyweight sensation made it clear he's ready, even at just 20 years old. And finally, Usyk himself has responded, giving his thoughts on Itauma's win and bold challenge.
There is a new era coming, and Moses is that kid, right? And I go, yeah, but is Oleksandr Usyk? Hold on. Hear me out.
Everybody else, yeah. Saying, yeah, I get all that, but not Usyk.
No, but is Oleksandr Usyk honestly going to give Moses Itauma a shot? The answer would be no. No, he doesn't have to. No, that's the point.
That's not the point, though, is it? That's not what Tyson's saying. That's not what we're
Tyson's saying he'd wipe him out. Of course he wouldn't. Of course he wouldn't. But what I'm saying is that fight's never going to materialise. No. And so you look at that, and so like that's off the table.
But what he's stating the obvious, isn't he? Of course, Moses Itauma beats everybody else.
Yeah,
because they're all old men. You know, they're all sitting there waiting to get beat now by this young, exciting 20-year-old man who would probably ruin the.
When asked about Itauma's recent victory, Usyk praised him, calling him a great man and a great fighter. He even went as far as saying Itauma represents the future of boxing and that he likes him. But when reminded that Itauma wants the fight right now, Usyk laughed it off, hinting that the 20-year-old might not be ready yet. But Moses didn't hold back on where he sees himself in the mix. He spoke with full confidence about his skill level, saying that when it comes to ring IQ and technique, he already feels he's at the very top. The only thing missing in his eyes is proving himself in the later rounds, something he hasn't really had the chance to show yet.
You must have a view of what level you're at now.
If you want my honest opinion, I think if my skill set, if you're talking about my ring IQ and what I display in the ring, I feel like I am the best in the world, but I haven't displayed the later rounds. That's all what I kind of want to get.
That's why his focus right now is on lining up opponents who can push him deeper into fights. It's less about racking up easy wins and more about getting that valuable experience under his belt. He feels he's got the sharper skill set, but admits the later rounds could be where Usyk pulls ahead, simply because Moses hasn't been tested at that level yet.
It ticked off. So my next opponent or opponents this year, we're just looking at fights to kind of get me into that later round, because I feel like with Usyk, I feel like I've got a better skill set than him, but I feel like towards the later rounds, he'll just outdo me because I've never been in that sort of fight.
But it wasn't just the two fighters sizing each other up. Whenever a big fight starts brewing, the whole boxing world can't help but jump in with their opinions. And one voice that carries real weight in the heavyweight scene, Tony Bellew, didn't hold back after watching him in action. Bellew drew a comparison that instantly raised eyebrows. He brought up how young Mike Tyson was when he first became heavyweight champion, making it clear that Moses isn't far off from being in that conversation. He pointed out that the kind of performance Itauma just delivered is the type you could imagine even working against big names in their prime. And while Bellew admitted only a couple of fighters right now could really test Moses at this stage, he left just enough unsaid for fans to start imagining how those matchups might look.
Mike Tyson was 20 years and 5 months when he wins the heavyweight championship of the world. Don't take anything away from Moses Itauma. He could have done that to Dillian in the pomp of his career. You know, there's nobody in the world right now, apart from Oleksandr Usyk, Tyson Fury, who he couldn't pick holes in.
After Bellu's take, the conversation naturally moved to someone who knows Moses up close, his trainer, Ben Davison. And while Bellew was full of belief, Davison's view was a little more layered, focusing less on hype and more on the reality of what stepping in with Usyk would mean. He made the point that neither man has faced someone quite like the other. On one side, Usyk has never dealt with a heavyweight who can combine speed, power, and fight IQ the way Moses can. But at the same time, Moses hasn't shared a ring with someone who brings the kind of experience and technical sharpness Usyk does. Davison admitted that if they jumped into that fight tomorrow and it didn't go their way, the one thing he might look back on is experience. Not talent, not ability, but simply the need for more rounds against certain types of opponents before a clash of that scale.
Moses hasn't been in the ring with somebody like Usyk. Usyk hasn't been in the ring with somebody like Moses because there hasn't been somebody like him. Someone that's got the IQ, could match the IQ of anybody at any weight. Somebody that is as agile, as quick, hits as hard. He hasn't. If we went into that fight and we lost that fight, what would be the one thing that I would go, probably could have done with this before going into that fight? I would say rounds. It's not that we haven't been trying to deliver that, but there are one or two names in my mind that I think are the right guys that have the best chance of delivering that. And I think
he even hinted that there are a few names out there who could give Moses those valuable rounds, but he kept them to himself, suggesting that mentioning them openly would only complicate things. The key takeaway from Davison wasn't doubt in Moses' ability. It was more about timing and making sure that when the day comes for him to stand across from Usyk, he's not just ready, but fully prepared.
If we don't get the rounds from them guys, it's just a case of we're not going to get them. Yeah, I'm not going to mention the names because, their value probably goes up, price goes up, and becomes a bit more expensive. So, yeah, there's a couple of guys in mind. But again, it's not all just my decision. The team will sit down, see what's realistic, what's available.
While Davison spoke from the corner as a trainer, Teddy Atlas looked at the bigger picture. His angle wasn't just about what Moses can do now, but about how the timing of a Usyk fight could shape his whole journey. Atlas suggested patience. In his eyes, Moses should climb a few more steps before reaching the very top, not because he doubts him, but because every fighter needs those testing nights that prepare you for the ultimate challenge. He pointed to the idea of 1 or 2 more fights that would sharpen Moses even further before taking that leap.
I would also wait on a Usyk fight. I know that Turkey Al-Sheikh is talking about that, and that might come to pass with the money and everything else. But for me, if I'm with Moses, I'm saying let him get 1 or 2 more fights before we go to the top of Mount Everest. Let's climb a couple more peaks. Let's go. There's a mountain over there, and there's another one over there. Let's climb them, and then we're ready for the ultimate. So
Atlas also hinted at names already out there who could provide that test. He made it clear there are fighters in the division who are at a point in their careers where they're not just dangerous but valuable as opponents. Facing someone like that could give Moses lessons that no training camp can teach.
You got Parker, who's of course got one of the belts. He's tremendous, experienced guy, and not only experienced guy, Parker, but he is at his best. You know what I mean, bud? He has gotten to that sweet spot in your career where you're clicking on all cylinders. With Andy Lee, with everything, he is in the best position of his life right now. The way he's fighting, he is a Parker who is parked in the best neighborhood he's ever been in. He is at his best now.
At the same time, Atlas didn't just keep the focus on Moses. He widened the lens to Usyk as well. He spoke about what it would mean for Usyk's own story, how at this stage of his career, every choice carries weight, and whether Usyk should keep taking on challenges or think about closing his career on a high note was something Atlas clearly had on his mind.
That guy's real. But I would go in those directions before Usyk. I don't want to see the Usyk fight with him. And I'm very honest about the reason why. I want to see Usyk go off to the sunset. I'm not saying he can't beat him. I'm not saying that. I wouldn't go against Usyk with anybody. He is that special. But I think at this point of his career, after Usyk gets through his next fight, let him go off into the sunset What's wrong with that? We haven't had an undefeated heavyweight champion in the history of the sport except for Rocky Marciano. What's wrong with having a good ending?
Still, he admitted Usyk's nature is to welcome challenges, and if that means taking on someone as young and hungry as Moses, Atlas wouldn't be surprised to see it happen.
I don't see anything wrong. He earned the right. He also earned the right to fight whoever he wants, and knowing the temperament of Usyk, he'll say, bring on the youngin'. The youngin'. Bring him forward, please. Please. So maybe that'll wind.
After Teddy Atlas laid out his thoughts on patience and timing, the conversation shifted to Duke McKenzie. And unlike Atlas, who zoomed in on the craft of boxing, McKenzie's take felt like he was weighing a bigger question. What happens when raw power meets refined mastery?
You go with a kid that is this young, this exciting. Who are you going to put him in with? Who are you going to pitch him in with? Do you know what I mean? If it's not for a world championship against Usyk, who else are you going to put him in with? You know, Joseph Parker. Obviously, he deserves a world title fight because he's been waiting for so long and he's earned his spot as the number one mandatory. So, you know, I mean, a world title fight won't be Moses Itauma's next fight, but he's not going to be too far away.
But we're talking about...
He didn't dismiss Moses' performance against Dillian White. In fact, he acknowledged just how sharp and destructive it was. But McKenzie's tone suggested something deeper, that even when a fighter looks unstoppable, the sport has a way of testing them against opponents who play an entirely different game.
A generational fighter in Oleksandr Usyk, a generational talent. Would you say right now, even if this fight doesn't happen, even if we're being a bit hypothetical here, that Itauma would be ready to get in the ring with Usyk and potentially beat him?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I still don't feel that even that performance is not enough to beat Oleksandr Usyk, because boxing's all about levels. And Usyk isn't the kind of, as I said before, Usyk's not on the slide. He's not, and he would, you know, once you set out your game plan and you get your tactics and ABCD right, as Usyk has done, that's why he's unbeaten and a two division unified 4-belt era champion.
For McKenzie, that opponent is Usyk, not just a champion, but a man who has spent years proving himself against every style and every obstacle. McKenzie hinted that Moses may be on the fast track, but Usyk operates on a track that's longer, tougher, and lined with opponents who never made it back the same after sharing the ring with him.
That's what separates the good from the great. Moses Itauma is a good fighter, there's no doubt about it. And one day he can go on to be great. But right now he's looking at a generational great in Oleksandr Usyk.
He didn't outright say Moses can't do it, and that's what makes his words stick. He gave credit, he saw potential, but he also left a pause, as if to remind everyone that timing in boxing isn't just about punches. Sometimes it's about when you dare to climb the mountain.
Expected route that this goes down. What would you expect from that fight?
On that performance, well, see, Joseph Parker brings a whole different set of problems to Moses Itauma, because Joseph Parker's not, listen, what we've just seen with Dillian White is he was finished and washed up, right? But Joseph Parker's not that guy. Joseph Parker, there's a lot of miles left on his clock, so that sets a whole new set of problems for Moses Itauma. But on that performance, what we've just seen from Moses Itauma.
When Derek Criosa was asked about the future of the fighters, he didn't pin down a clear answer. Instead, Chisora dropped hints, almost suggesting that where Moses goes next will depend on how carefully he's steered and who gets lined up across from him. But then came a name that instantly raised eyebrows. Usyk. The matchup was mentioned, and while many expected Chisora to brush it aside, he didn't. He left the thought hanging, making it seem like a young fighter taking on a skilled champion might not be as unlikely as it sounds.
When you look at the future for Itauma, what do you think about his next for him?
Next one, don't know. Depends with the paymasters. Where do you want to put him?
Okay. Do you think Usyk's potential? Do you think there is a potential for him to fight Usyk?
Usyk could blow the smoke out. Usyk could kill him. Yeah.
And when it came to Tyson Fury, he didn't tiptoe around it. His perspective carried that extra punch, coming from someone who's held every belt on offer and lived at the very top of the game. Fury circled back to one of his recurring points. Boxing doesn't slow down for anyone. He's said before it's a young man's sport, a line he famously leaned on during his own clash with Klitschko. This time he tied it directly to Moses, pointing out the gulf in age between him and today's champions, hinting that this very gap is what will eventually swing things.
I keep getting asked about young Moses Itauma fighting Oleksandr Usyk and fighting other big names. And my opinion is not someone who don't know boxing. My opinion is someone who has been there and won every single belt, won everything there is to win in boxing, and done very well. Boxing is a young man's game. Like I told Vladimir Klitschko when he was 37, boxing's a young man's game and it waits for nobody.
Then he doubled down. He didn't just talk about Usyk. He grouped him with Joshua, Zhilei Zhang, Ortiz, and others still clinging to the upper tier. Fury labeled them all as a fading pack. In his eyes, Moses represents the wave ready to wash over them. Youth against experience, energy against time, and when the moment arrives, it won't be the veterans who last the longest.
So here's the opinion, you've heard it here first. Moses Itauma will wreck all them old men out of the division. Usyk, AJ, Miller, whoever there is who's old, Zhang, whoever else there is, Luis Ortiz, all these big names of the past are all a spent force. And even the world champion now, if they took my belts and give them to Usyk, Moses will wreck him. Because he's a young man versus an old man. An old man can't mess with young men.
The buzz around Moses keeps growing, and with every fight, the expectations only seem to rise higher. People are starting to wonder just how far and how fast he can really go. The big question hanging over everything now is whether he'll one day be able to match or even beat someone like Usyk. That possibility might feel far off, but it's what makes the road ahead so exciting to follow. Let us know in the comments below what you think comes next.